And so for me, unlocking unlimited potential means you see the problem, but pass the problem to the potential and you call them up to it.
Unlocking unlimited potential means to me finding the best in yourself so you can actually help inspire that in others.
Unlocking unlimited potential means the work is not about you. It's about seeing the greatness in others and using your own story and your own vulnerability to unleash the potential that others have.
It means taking fear, doubt, and worry, those gremlins that are whispered in your ear, invite them in, make them some coffee, tell them to have a seat, and tell them that they're gonna watch you get after it. Fear, doubt, and worry has to be managed.
Don't settle. Be open to the possibilities of what you can do.
It's hard enough to get a student to see who they are, but now try to get them to see who they can become. And that will make all the difference in the world.
Empowering yourself to own your story.
It is deep down in everybody that I walk past every day. Everyone that I look at, no matter whatever the disability, no matter whatever the level of disappointment, depression, fortunate situation, man, there's a diamond deep down inside, and everybody has a calling on their life. Everybody has a purpose, and we just have to get there and get to that diamond.
Well, I want you to know that inside of you exists an unlimited potential, and I believe in it. And one reason that I believe in it is because inside of us is a potential that once we learn how to control it and harness it and live it with passion, that we'll be able to spread it through our schools and our classrooms and through our communities and into our world like wildfire. Join me on the journey as we explore together unlocking unlimited potential. And I can't wait to be on this journey with you. Welcome to the Unlocking Unlimited Potential Stories show. Tonight we come to you lakeside from Ontario. Here we are in the land. Look at that sunset. Brian Aspinall, so excited to have you, my brother. How you doing, my man?
I am stellar. That intro is fire. Holy boss. You got me fired up.
Yeah, there's some great people in there. It's been an exciting journey to be a part of it and to be able to have the opportunity to share people's stories. And your story, my man, we were just talking on the pre-show for about 20 minutes and we were just couldn't stop. I mean, we had so many things to talk about, so many great things going on in your life right now. So just to give everybody a little introduction, the best that I can, he's a TEDx speaker. He is the founder of Codebreaker. He is a real estate, I don't even know what adjective, tycoon. Should we call him courageous tycoon? He's a real estate animal right now. He's doing some amazing things, taking some awesome leaps. He is here with us, coming from across the border in Canada. Brian, how you doing, man?
Oh, stellar. Thank you. Oh, man. Did my mom write that bio or what? She probably didn't. We are doing incredibly well here. Most southern part of mainland Canada, beautiful Lake Erie's North Shore. I'm 45 minutes south of Detroit, Michigan. We're actually the same latitude as parts of Northern California. For you geography teachers out there, go try and do a little Google scavenger hunt of where I am right now in the camping trailer. It's my office on wheels, a tiny house office.
That's awesome. And to dig into that, I mean, there's so many different things that have been going on with you and all the great things. And we also can follow it pretty much on a daily basis on YouTube because you have pretty much documented this entire journey. So if anybody has any questions after this show, make sure you follow Brian and make sure you jump on there and find out all that you need to know to get all the answers to, man, did he really do that? Are they really doing that? That's great stuff. So jump into that a little bit. Talk us through it. Take us from the beginning. Codebreaker, you started there. Maybe we start at Codebreaker and work our way forward. What do you think?
Sounds great. Codebreaker has been an amazing ride for me. It's been an amazing creative outlet. It's been my own professional learning. There's quite a few Codebreakers on your intro. I find I'm surrounded by brilliant minds in education, and it just fills my mind with the stuff I need. That's what gets me fired up to get out of bed in the morning. My undergrad was computer science, is computer science. And around the Y2K time, if you remember that, if you don't remember Y2K, you're a millennial and you need to look that up. But around 1999, 2000, I was at the university here studying computer science, and that was the .com dream era, right? We were just getting out of dial-up internet and heading into high-speed modems and yada, 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 yada. But I live very rural here in Southern Ontario, Canada. And so when I graduated, it was one of those things. It was, all right, my friend, now you've got student loans. Do you want to move to Toronto and actually chase the .com dream? Do you want to cross the border into Detroit, Michigan? We call it the brain drain. There's a bit of a jargon here for companies across the border that poach from our university right here, which is like borders Detroit, Michigan. So long story short, I realized, or at the time, I came to the conclusion that moving to Toronto was not in my best interest. With student loans already, I didn't want to pile on the debt. I do come from a line of teachers, and becoming a teacher was what I wrote on my grade 9, 9th grade guidance counselor form. So 2 years after I graduated computer science, I decided to go back to the Faculty of Ed. I thought I'd become a high school computer science teacher, and I ended up in elementary school. Now, here in the province of Ontario, we've got two separate unions, our elementary union and our secondary union, on the public education side. And at the time, it was really challenging to get a job. So when I got hired on the elementary side, I wasn't risky enough then, ironically, to jump and try and get onto the high school side, because you would lose all of your seniority. So I found my niche in 7th grade and 8th grade, and wouldn't you know, we teach to our strengths. So I've been coding, quote unquote, for 15 years in my elementary homeroom. And I decided I was going to start growing my hair around 2006, get that Beachbody tan going. I grabbed my surfboard and admittedly caught the hour of Code Wave. Code.org came out, and I found myself being pulled in a plethora of directions for consulting opportunities. And I was like, me? Why me? Well, you have been integrating coding into an elementary homeroom classroom where you teach every subject area. How are you doing it? And long story short, after dozens of school districts, I got scooped up by our ministry here in the province of Ontario to run a provincial program. I was the team lead of 8 people. Gosh, this is almost 10 years ago now. And the idea at the time was it takes way too long to develop a new curriculum. So computer science is not coming in elementary anytime soon. It's here now, but I'm going back a decade. So our job was to create resources that integrated computational thinking into existing curriculums in the province of Ontario. And the rest is history. That blew up. I found myself consulting for Microsoft Canada. I found myself speaking in Budapest on a Minecraft panel. And then Obama dumped a plethora of money into the White House, and the rest is history. The demand for computer science education is still on the rise, and Codebreaker is here to bring that thought leadership around coding and computer science. We're not here to teach you the block basics of coding. We're here to teach you about the pedagogy of computational thinking and why it should be integrated into everything that we do at school. And that includes my favorite part, because coding is my foot in the door to talk about really important things, which is like assessment and evaluation. When students learn to code, it never works the first time through, and that forces us to redefine what it means to fail at school. We keep pushing risk-taking. We keep pushing this idea of learning from failure, but we work and teach in systems in which failure is punished. So coding has become my vehicle to have the leadership level conversations with those who are in positions to make change.
Yeah, man, the passion, the fire, it's coming out of your ears. I love it. I'm just sitting back. You just run the show. I don't even need to say anything, but God, so much to unpack in there. But yeah, it's also important to realize that, you know, this kind of started as, sounds like what you're saying, and what I know from knowing you is that it started as coding and it just turned into everything else. You know, it's too often do we silo things in education. You know, this is just culturally responsive. This is just technology. This is just social emotional learning, you know, and I think that's it starts, that's your foundation, and it's a great foundation for life and for problem solving and for, everything that's going on in the world and all of these great, amazing things that are happening in the tech space. But, something to remind people and always make them realize is that, like, Code Breaker is just so much more than coding. It's just the revolution of it all, right?
Yeah, the brand itself, that's become the metaphor, is we're here to disrupt and go against the grain. We're here to find the misfits, if you will, those that live on the fringe, the ones that are not often in the staff room at lunchtime. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Give me 1 sec. Sorry. I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with that, but we want to find those like-minded people who've got amazing stories to tell and amplify them. That's become the new Codebreaker mission, because I personally feel strongly that for drastic change to happen, it's not going to be internally, and it's probably not going to be done by governing bodies. It really does need to be a grassroots movement. And so we're on the hunt to find the next people that want to join the army, so to speak, and make change. Yes. Glad to be a part of that group myself as well. That is, it's an amazing group of educators. It's been an amazing group of people to connect with. The Power Summit was incredible. I think I cried like 11 times. It was solid, man. It's a solid group of individuals that you just like to continue to be able to connect with, and just people from all different spaces of education, and some really amazing things that are coming out of that. So it's got to be, you have to be pretty proud to be able to sit back and be like, well, I started as, this vision of coding and website design, and all of a sudden it turned into, now it's inspiring educators across the world, which is a pretty amazing thing, man. Congratulations. I really appreciate your words. It's not always fluffy clouds and rainbows and pink elephants. For a while, it was very dark and political in my world. And that's because I was making a lot of noise. And for anybody out there that's affiliated with a district that's doing really innovative things, sometimes it's frowned upon. And it's not frowned upon because you're doing something wrong. It's just, the old narrative of, well, this is how we've always done it at school. So if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form speaking negatively about my former district, but I do feel in many ways I was sort of forced out. And at the time, it hurt, Now I'm forever grateful. The year I was turned down for funding internally with my district to run my own computer science funding, I was turned down and told coding's a fad. That same year, I was nominated by a colleague, and I won the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence for my body of work with computer science. And I'm saying this from a very humble heart. Only a dozen of those awards are given out in a year. So to have my employer say one thing and then to have the Prime Minister say something else was really a big deal. And that was the first time I made my first drastic pivot. I like to use the word pivot a lot. There's no failures in my life. There's just a lot of pivots in new directions.
Yeah, man. And what an amazing pivot, because you continue to move forward. And, from this, now you pivoted again as we hit COVID and the pandemic. And, you started this whole other venture. Well, I mean, you've kind of had your hands in real estate all the time, but talk a little bit about your adventures through real estate and some of your real big announcements that you made throughout that process.
I have always been of the mindset, and maybe this is partially from studying computer science. We didn't have your traditional tests and exams, multiple choice, things of that nature. And everything was open book. So when I got into education and saw the testing environment that was happening in schools, I was confused. My university experience, which is ironic because the argument for grades is always post-secondary school, but in my experience at the post-secondary level, all of my exams were projects, and we had to solve problems for other departments on campus. So when I got into education, I already had this mindset that everything was this inquiry based. Along those lines, that also taught me the idea of a 9 to 5 doesn't fit with me. I learned, again, going back to Y2K, I watched my uncle write software for his company to make sure the computer clock didn't roll over from 1999 to 1900. And his deadline was literally December 31st at 11:59 p.m. So early on in my career, I always had this idea that a fulfilling life for me is one in which I'm not trading time for money. And in my first 5 years of teaching, and a lot of people don't know this about me, in my first 5 years of teaching, I developed on my own 3 apps that were successfully acquired by companies down in the United States. And that really got things rolling for me. Now, consider the context. I've got a school district that is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, take it for what it's worth, trying to keep their thumb on me because of all the noise I'm making online. That we had local news in my classroom talking about these apps that I'm building. Well, I thought, am I not modeling innovation? Am I not, like, I'm building apps, I'm putting them online, and my students are watching the process, and then I'm monetizing it. Am I not teaching them indirectly about the 21st century without the explicit part of teaching, so to speak? They're just watching. So that got me into real estate. It was, how many passive income funnel streams can I create that don't require my time? It's a very simple concept. Let's say somebody offers you $50 to cut grass, and it takes you about 1 hour to cut that grass. High school Brian's out there cutting that grass for that $50. University Brian was like, wait a second. Can I build an app that cuts grass? No. Can I find somebody else who's going to do it for $40 and put that $10 in my pocket? Abso-friggin-lutely, I can do that. Now you're saying to yourself, well, you just missed out on $40, but I didn't. I gained an hour, and time is my currency. Time is my biggest asset. So I've got $10 in my pocket, and I haven't done anything. If I can replicate that 5 more times, I still haven't cut grass, and I still have $50 in my pocket. So the idea with real estate was, how do we start acquiring things and have other people pay our mortgage? Well, we live on beautiful Lake Erie's North Shore. So how we got started was, we bought our first rental property as an off-market deal, and it needed a bit of work. Well, when it's an off-market deal, you know you're going to pay a little bit under market value. And the real estate market hadn't hit quite yet here like it is now across the globe. I'm going back about 3.5 years. So my wife and I bought this house as a rental property on the lake, and we were going to do Airbnb. The reason we're going to do Airbnb is because Ontario and California have the strictest laws against landlords. Tenants have all the rights in California and in Ontario. And after 28 days, the Landlord-Tenant Act comes into play in Ontario. So by doing Airbnb, that was a loophole to put people in our place, but not have them squat. And because we are a lakefront community with about 20 or so wineries blowing up, it just was a no-brainer. There's weddings here absolutely all the time. So we thought, all right, this is a brilliant side hustle. So it's called the BRRRR strategy: buy, renovate, rent, refinance. So you recycle your down payment. Here's how it works. We buy our first house off-market deal. Let's say the house was $100. We do all the sweat equity ourselves. Let's say we put $30 into it. So we've got $130 out of our pocket into the house. We've refurbed it now. We're ready to rent it on Airbnb. We get a steady cash flow going over about 6 months. The idea with the cash flow was, I just need this house to put $10 in my pocket at the end of every month. I want every renter's dollar to cover the expenses, to cover the insurance, to cover the tax. And if the house cash flows, then you're winning tenfold, because you're still going to grow the equity. So we get it cash flowing for about 6 months. You call the bank back and you say, listen, the house is appreciated. We've done some work. Will you give it a refinance? Remember, we've got $130 into the house, and it's been cash flowing for 6 months at, again, say $10 a month for argument's sake. The bank comes out, does an appraisal, and says, you know what? This house is worth $150 now. Well, we just increased the equity by $20. You take that $20 now and you use it as a down payment for the next project. We actually bought the house right next door and renovated it and rented it and refinanced it again. So 3-4 years later now, we had 4 rental we had 5 houses at the beginning of January 2021. We are down to 0 because of COVID and a plethora of other things that have happened. But that was the strategy we were using. We were actually letting the bank's money grow our portfolio. We started a decade ago with building lots because they were a safer, cheaper, less risky investment because they're so affordable. But you can't rent those out. So the idea of the cash flow, the passive income funnel came to be. Codebreaker is another passive income funnel. You, like myself, we're authors. We get royalty checks at the end of the month, and we're not trading our time for that money. So that landed us heavily into real estate. And we admittedly, just like Hour of Code, couldn't have predicted the market. To date, we've done $1.5 million in real estate transactions just in 2021 alone.
It's an incredible story for sure. It is. I mean, I'm sitting back here listening to it all, and you need to write a book, obviously, because I love that strategy. And also you just keep going. And really, I'm sure you've definitely experienced, a lot of stress and a lot of, ups and downs in this process, but to take the leap and just start, and you just started something. I know that's something we say a lot at Codebreaker, but to do that takes one thing to say it, but it takes another thing to do it. So that's just so amazing. We talk about things that are happening in your world, and we talk about, the continuing to expand of Codebreaker. And one thing we do on this show is we dedicate an episode to someone who's out there unlocking unlimited potential in all whom they serve. And you had mentioned you wanted to bring out the newest author at Codebreaker, Brett Salakis. There he is. Tell us a little bit about Brett. He's an Australian. He's from the down under for sure, right? He does some shrimps on the Barbie, I bet.
We talk a lot, my wife and I, in our personal life and as well as our professional life with Codebreaker. We trust our gut feelings and we listen to the universe. And COVID canceled leisure travel for us, which was the reason why we dumped all the rental properties. It was just time for another pivot. But at the same time, we took advantage of an incredibly hot market. And that was the universe speaking. Brett came into my world literally the same day I got an email from Amazon that says we now have a printing facility in Australia. And I thought, that's it right there. If you are now printing books in the Down Under, and I just met Brett from the Down Under, the universe is telling me that we need to have a conversation. So yeah, I'm stoked to be working with Brett in 2021, 2022. And shout out to Matt Joseph for making that connection. Brett is just on fire. He speaks at ISTE. He's an incredible innovator. He works at the national level now, in Australia. I keep wanting to say provincial here in Canada. And he's doing some amazing work there. So really thrilled for where that is headed. And I'm really excited to be printing Codebreaker books in his backyard now.
Yes, absolutely. Isn't that the greatest thing? There's a lot of people on the chat here. So just giving a shout out to Brett Salakis. Lots of Codebreakers on this chat here watching, checking in. So hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in a nutshell, I know the two, Matt and Brett, started the Walking Eds, which is also a really cool movement that's happening in education. If you're not sure of what that is, just check out that hashtag Walking Eds. Those guys are awesome. And the idea that you can continue to expand across the globe and continue to share, and the conversations are still different, but they're also very similar, because what I'm having is a problem that's here. There's also problems in other parts of the world where it's happening. And it's good to know that, we're not alone and we're able to connect with people. So that's such an awesome part of this whole journey and this whole thing. I mean, would you agree that's been a big part for you?
Yeah, 100%. What I love about, I had 2 years of consulting keynotes booked that all came to a sudden halt March 13th, 2020, when the world shut down. I mean, COVID's been hard on absolutely everybody. This isn't a pity me party. It's just offering some context. That was, for me, the universe saying, you've been on the road telling your story for long enough. when I started 5 years ago, I felt that there was a handful of us that were doing coding across the globe, and now there's a handful in every school. So there's only so much I can give consulting wise on that front. And when March 13th hit, I was the morning keynote at the McCall conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the Michigan Association of Computer Users and Learning. I joke I was with Chris Wood's Daily STEM the day the world shut down. So we're like, whoa, that might be bad mojo, me and him. But anyway, when that happened and I saw those consulting opportunities come to a drastic halt, that was another major pivot. And it was, you know what? There are other people out there that are doing amazing things who just need an opportunity or some amplification. And I've built this massive, social media following. Now can I leverage it to help others? Because, being able to publish Unlocking Unlimited Potential reaches students. So I'm still teaching, and that brings me a lot of joy. I love that I get to amplify brilliant minds in education who will challenge me, push my thinking, but also give me some insight into what it's like where you are in New York, because it's different than what it's like here in the province of Ontario. And that's been incredibly rewarding. If I had stayed in my school district, I would have stayed in my silo, my bubble. And there's nothing wrong with that by any means, shape, or form. But the insight I've been given by being able to travel for work as an educator across the world has, I feel, just made me a better educator. And through that leadership lens, I've spent 8 days as a principal in the principal's office, not because I got fired, but because I was the teacher in charge for the odd day the principal was out over the course of a couple of years. So I don't have any experience running a school, but the leadership conversations I have had as a result of this are unmatched for me personally and professionally.
Yeah, and that's such an important point that it doesn't really matter what classroom or what space you're in. There's still a lot that you can bring to the table, and your understanding and your ability to say, hey, I need to change from this and start to now honor and share the voice of others is exactly what it's all about, because that is where you find that purpose, because we rise by lifting others, plain and simple. And that's, as much as we can do that as possible, and I know in your book, Risk Taker, you do that a lot. You share a lot there's a lot of other voices that are shared in that. I know in Unlocking Unlimited Potential, you wrote in here as well about, during COVID, that little bit of that story you just told and that realization. But that is the opportunity to share these stories and to help these educators. I know that I was in a tough place as an educator, and because I was told no, I couldn't write, the book wasn't interesting or whatever. And, the ideas that started to get in my way. And then all of a sudden I got an email back from you and Daphne one day, and it just changed everything. So I think that's important to know is one thing that I really thought was that I needed to have a big following. And it wasn't until I heard back from you guys that it was like, you know what, it's not at all about the following. It's about the content. And as much as you can make that quality content, I know you want to say something there.
Chomping at the bit, because it drives me bonkers. We are as far from a vanity publisher as you can be. And when I say vanity publisher, I mean, how many zeros are in your Twitter following? Okay, why don't you write a book? No, we want to find the people that want to make an impact on education, that want to change education, voices that need to be heard. We're not here about bloated platitudes, and we're not here preaching the importance of relationships, because if you still don't believe in that, get the hell out of education. We're here because it's time. And COVID has shown us it is definitely time. Higher ed lectures are dead in the water. Let's go. It's time. It's been time. So jump on board.
Jump on board the code breaker train. I love it. That's awesome. Well, listen, Brian, I don't want to keep you too busy. Your time is very important, as you just explained today. So we're going to stick to that. And I mean, it looks like you're sitting ready for a nice sunset. I see that you are in the camper right now that you guys are in. So what's going on outside the camper? Are you, you're waiting on a house to be built? That's correct.
Hey, the house is built. So last year we bought a tiny house on a beautiful, beautiful waterfront property that has 1,000 square foot dock. I was sold on the dock. My wife was like, we're going to live in that? That's 400 square feet. I was like, in summer, we're camping, whatever. And by mid-November, we were like, okay, it's cold. First of all, because of COVID, we didn't get around to, it's winterized, but there's no heat source. So it's insulated. It was fine in the summer. But it got pretty cold in November. I am Canadian. And so what we've done this year, and actually shameless plug for my YouTube channel, there's a video on it. We literally cut the roof off. We literally took the roof off the tiny house, the 400 square feet, put it on the ground. We literally built a second story, literally picked up the roof and put it back on with a crane. So we've gone from 400 to 800 square feet. They're, mirror images of each other, if you will. So bathroom there is now going to be a bathroom there. And we doubled the footprint. So we call it the not so tiny house, or the little cabin on the lake. We're 800 square feet, but I wouldn't trade it for absolutely anything in the world. We just purchased another little cabin. There's a modular house builder in town, and they're going to wheel this thing in on a truck and drop it on the grass over there. And that's going to be my YouTube studio / office. So stay tuned on YouTube for that video, because that'll be out in a couple weeks.
No way. That sounds amazing. So tell me, what's the best way for them to see the YouTube channel? What's the address?
I think it's youtube.com/Brian Aspinall will get you there. It's all over all my social handles. If you follow me on Instagram, it's in my link tree in my bio there. If you do a search for Brian Aspinall, I think on YouTube, you'll get some really boring TED Talks and some old boring keynotes and some really exciting house renovations.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, listen, Brian, before you go, I got to ask you for your highlight video bit. So here it is. And we've been talking about it so long today. So unlocking unlimited potential means.
Unlocking unlimited potential to me means to continue to pivot. There's no such thing as failure. There's mistakes, and those are learning opportunities. We never learn anything from being perfect. When you learn to code, it almost never works the first time. And that's the moment innovation and debugging can begin. I'm using coding as a metaphor, but unlocking your unlimited potential is the ability to pivot on demand to continue moving forward. Every step in the right direction is a step, no matter if it's a baby step or not. Keep moving forward.
Oh my God. That was perfect. Well done. Well done. Bravo.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, man. Thanks so much for joining me.
Can we drop one little tweet, one little tease?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's tease away. Oh, wait, we got to shout out. Wait, hold on. Time out. We got to shout out Matt Joseph, whose book is dropping. Because shout out to that book. I think that's the beeper going off saying that Amazon's dropping it off, right? It's done. It's out.
My foot keeps hitting the carbon monoxide tester alarm beside the propane tank on the furnace. So it's my big toe that's doing that. Yes, Matt's book was submitted for publication yesterday, so it'll be live any minute now. And we're toying with Codebreaker Summer Summit for a back-to-school idea event sometime in August. So we'll be knocking on your door there, Dr. Matt. We'll be knocking on your door.
I'm ready. That sounds amazing. Well, listen, shouting out to Matthew Joseph. Shout out to everybody on the chat who joined us. This is the first time I think I was really active in the chat because I now can figure it out. But hey,
how do I see that?
That's cool.
Are we on Facebook or what?
You'll see it on Facebook. You'll be able to scroll back through it on Facebook. So for those of you that are tuning in on the replay, thanks for joining. Drop us a comment if you are joining us. And also for those of you listening on the podcast, we thank you for listening. The journey towards unlocking unlimited potential begins with you. Continue to educate with passion and purpose. Brian, thank you for doing all that you do and for leading by example and for continuing to be all that you can be, my brother.
I appreciate you. Peace and love from beautiful Lake Erie's North Shore, most southern part of mainland Canada.